Hello and welcome to the tutorial for faculty from the Office of Accessibility Services. This tutorial will cover policies and procedures for accommodating students with disabilities. This will be an extremely short presentation that will offer just an overview of the accommodations and services that faculty need to know about in terms of serving students with disabilities. I am Dr. Nina Gazzelli, and I am the System-Wide Director of Accessibility Services. Although I won't be talking much about my own experiences, I am a person with a learning disability and who stutters. I wanted to include some information on talking to a person who stutters just because whenever I present, I like to give people that information since of the adult population, people who stutter are only 1% of that population. So I have some information here which I will let you read through on your own. This training applies to all of the schools in the affiliates of Alliant International University. Every single campus has an Office of Accessibility and a coordinator who can assist students in applying for accommodations and coordinating those with the faculty. Guidelines for accommodating students with disabilities. There are 4 things that I want to talk about here. One is to refer all accommodation requests to the campus accessibility coordinator. They will then generate a letter of accommodation to the faculty as well as come to an agreement with the student about what accommodations and services they will receive. It is the student's responsibility to present the accommodation letter to the faculty at least 2 weeks before the accommodation is needed. If it is presented not within that time limit, then it is the faculty's choice of whether or not to accommodate. In general, if there is enough time, then the faculty should make the best efforts to accommodate the student, but faculty should not be responsible for making last-minute accommodation requests. Faculty and student also work out the best way to implement the accommodation. For example, if a student is taking a test, they would coordinate when and where to take the test and coordinate the Office of Accessibility if a proctor is needed to facilitate the test. Generating letters of accommodation. Students present their documentation to the accessibility coordinator that is sufficient to meet Alliant's documentation standards. Each coordinator is trained to look at the documentation and to negotiate the accommodations with the student, and all of this should be housed within that area. Faculty should not be accepting, and if students do give you their documentation, faculty should not accept it, and they should not give accommodations that have not been approved by the Office of Accessibility, and they should refer the student to the Office of Accessibility coordinator. This is intended to make the accommodations standardized so that if they receive an accommodation in your class, they will receive the same one in all of their classes. That way they can get their education with the most appropriate accommodation, and also many of our students will be taking a licensing exam one day, so it's really important that they are using the accommodations that they were one day used on the test so that there is that consistency and they know what they have to work with in terms of meeting their goals. There are various accommodations that a student might get, and this really is dependent on the disability and the functioning of the disability and how it impacts on the student. Some of these accommodations might include time and a half or double time on exams, a quiet room for exams, readers either for exams or for classes, extra time to complete a degree, limited leaves of absences for medical reasons, assistance in registering and applying for financial aid, priority registration, classroom modifications, note-taking assistance, and priority in housing and parking. And these accommodations that are listed here have been upheld in the courts, and that's why they've been included in this section. If the student approaches you without the accommodation letter, refer the student directly to the Office of Accessibility Services and tell them, I cannot accommodate you without a letter of documentation, or a letter of accommodation. Other important considerations. If you have any concerns whatsoever about an accommodation, immediately and directly contact the accessibility coordinator to discuss this with them. Sometimes faculty might have a concern that a student will not meet the requirements of the class, and accommodations are really meant to level the playing field, not to make modifications that are that are unfair and put the student with a disability at an advantage. They should be able to access the same material and demonstrate their knowledge the same as other students. Sometimes students, especially in their first year, may not know that the Office of Accessibility exists and may need to be told about the office and directed there. So on the first day, it's good to announce that students can see you privately if they have an approved accommodation request, and also if they don't, you can talk with them about a referral to that office. Another way to reach out is by a syllabus statement, which this is the one that we use here at Alliant, which reads, if you need to use approved disability-related accommodations in the class, please see me privately. All accommodations must be requested in a timely manner, at least 2 weeks ahead of time, with a letter of support from Alliant International University's Campus Accessibility Coordinator. And of utmost importance is confidentiality. Please keep all discussions of accommodations confidential, even if you think the student is open about these accommodations. Also, students will be giving you a letter that describes their accommodations. It's also important that this information is kept confidential as well. For more information, you can refer to the Office of Accessibility Services site at Alliant, which I will have a link to that in this section. Also, you can contact the Office of Accessibility coordinators on your campus, or you can contact me, Dr. Nina Gazzelli. Thank you so much for your time and for learning about the accommodations process at Alliant International University.